everyone. Wow, it's been some time since my last video, and what a summer it's been. It's been a summer of some real deep transformation and learning and change, deep change and growth, and quite a shift. You know, I think we would all agree that the world is changing at such a fast rate, and that as that world changes, you know, you find yourself swept along with those changes, and that is some of what I've personally deeply experienced. Some of you may remember an experience that I shared just as we were moving into the summer, that I woke up and could sense a presence standing in the doorway as I woke up. And I've, over the years got used to being around presences and feeling that sense of not always being alone when I seem to be, but I'm not. And I no doubt, many of you that are listening, you've had those experiences where you just know you're not quite alone, that there's something else, someone else there with you. And I've come to recognise that, of course, over the years. And yet when I wake up in the morning and I sense a presence standing in the doorway, I know that they are wanting to grab my attention, that there's something that they want to talk to me about a little bit more seriously, that they are holding my attention, and that I've recognised over the years. And I woke up with this presence of more than one person standing in the doorway, and I just got the sense of the words that followed were, Shane, within this life you've grown many things, you've touched many lives, and what a privilege and an honour it is to, without a doubt, to do the work that I do. So you've grown many things within life, you've touched many lives, but now it's time to grow a garden. And I laid there just kind of absorbing those words, because it was said with so much strength and so much force. And I got up, I washed, dressed, walked out of my front door, and I bumped into a lovely dear neighbour of mine, who was just coming out of her home, and we crossed paths, and she smiled and said to me, pointing towards my little container garden, "I was thinking of you the other day. I've just signed up for an allotment plot, small piece of land, to be able to grow vegetables, be able to grow my own food. Would you be interested?" And those words that I'd experienced only an hour before, "It's time to grow a garden," really they just echoed inside of my head, and I was shocked. And yet I shouldn't have been. This is the way that this all unfolds over the years. And I was like, absolutely. 3 weeks later, I had my own on June the 9th. June the 7th, I completed all the paperwork. June the 9th, I planted alongside my dad my first lot of plants. And those of you that follow on Instagram, you would see by picture that story unfolding and unravelling. I kind of encourage you to go and have a look. It'll give you an idea of what's unravelling and unfolding here. And that's been such a huge, profound journey and a huge, profound shift. And alongside that, I've been led and guided to, you know, what I believe is a deeper truth to what's kind of going on in front of our own very eyes. And I feel very, very strongly about that, and I feel it's been echoed from the innate and spirit, and the importance of what is going on in front of our own very eyes, for us to embrace, to really connect with, but connect with within our hearts, as well as the bare facts that lay in front of us. And that's not something that I say lightly at all. I kind of, want to encourage you to, take a moment and when we all look out into the world, what is it that we see? As we look out into the world, what is it that we see? Take a moment and think about that. Looking out into the world, what do we see? What is those words, key words that come to you as you look out into the world? What do you see? What do we see? I often say that to the incredible people that I'm privileged and honoured to work with. As you look out into the world, what is it that you see? What do we see? What is the underlying emotion? What words can we use to describe that? Roger Hallam suggests, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him going forwards, but Roger Hallam suggests that the world is going through a nervous breakdown. And not only is the world going through that nervous breakdown, the very thing that holds us together, the land beneath our feet, is so stressed. Her resources just absolutely pushed to breaking point, that she too is under an incredible amount of stress, that she too is beginning to show that breaking. If you think about on a human level, if you're under stress, what happens is eventually something begins to break down, and you kind of move into that nervous breakdown. And if we look out into the world, that's absolutely what is beginning to happen with the very thing that sustains us, the very thing that, if you want, you can put it in these terms, pays all the bills, the resources come from that, is beginning to, without a doubt, beginning to break down. I heard only yesterday that 70% of the ice cap has melted. We've only got to look in the last few weeks. There's incidents that are happening that are kind of in a way beyond belief. And I think that there's two ways that we connect with that. We either are knocked over by it, or we carry on as we always have done, which is a kind of form of a preservation, self-preservation. It's a kind of reaction to the shock at some level. We just can't compute it, or we don't know how to. I suggest in a way what we're doing is we're just sidestepping it subconsciously. And I think that, I go back to a situation, an experience that I had on January the 1st of this year. I had some dreams that were leading up to that time and an experience, and I stood there very consciously and opened up my front door, out with the old, in with the new, out with the false, and in with the truth. Out with the false and in with the truth. And I thereafter experienced all these situations where the truth was presenting itself, and kind of in a way it was this sense of stepping into the year consciously, out with the false, in with the real, out with the old, in with the new. And thereafter all these situations were kind of guiding me to discover some deeper truths. And then, I find myself on June, leading up to June, the experience of waking up in the morning, and now it's time to grow a garden, which has led me further along a journey and a path, and when I say, when you look out into the world, what do you see? And as Roger, I think, very emotively describes, that the world around us is having a nervous breakdown, and the very thing that holds us together is having a nervous breakdown. We're experiencing things that are in extremes. Even here in the UK, we've had extreme heat that we have never known in record, and okay, it's bite-sized chunks, but what we're seeing is an extremity, a burst, and we're also predicted to see the extreme over this winter. So what we're experiencing is extremes. And I think that when we all stop and we do look out into the world, I think we would all agree with Roger that the world is having that nervous breakdown. Humanity is having that nervous breakdown. And I think these are the conversations I feel, in a way I'm suggesting, and I feel that we should all be having, because it affects all of us. These are the conversations that we gently should be having around the dinner table, on the bus to work, on the way to school, all of these conversations we should be having, because all of us are engaged in this. It affects all of us. I can remember standing up in front of an audience of around about 150 people around about 20 years ago, and standing there and looking out into the audience, and this voice, the very thing that has guided me all these years to do the work that I do, said to me, what is it that you see when you look out into that audience? And I remember feeling a very strong sense of, well, people are here for the answers. They're here for the truth. And I remember saying that to myself, but obviously not to myself. And the voice said, yes, they're looking for the answers, they're looking for the truth. But sitting here, they have a belief that they don't know those answers, they don't know those truths. But in fact, they do. They just need to trust in themselves. So I'm going to really encourage you to listen, continue to listen to this. Around about 20 odd minutes, maybe a little bit longer, this video will be. And I really encourage you to watch the links within this video as well, and kind of ask yourself, what is it that I'm experiencing as I watch these talks and these videos. You know, and I remember then looking out into that audience and saying to them, how many of you here are for answers? How many of you are here to discover some truths? And most of the hands went up, and there were some colleagues, fellow mediums. I've always said that from this day, that very day on that holistic mediumship was born, fellow mediums that were working at the back, some of them put their hands up, and I said to them, okay, so you're looking for those answers. I believe that if you go within, you'll find those answers. So, who would like to give that a go? And I encouraged everybody to take some deep cleansing breaths. You breathe, you become more centered, you become more still, you go inwardly, you begin to connect, and it's not always that easy when everything is in chaos. You know, if we look out into the world is in some form of chaos. It is having that nervous breakdown. You know, we get swept up in that. It's not always easy to remain centered, to be able to go in there and find those answers. But when we breathe and we become still, we become present, they can begin to surface again. We can begin to connect with them. We can begin to touch them again. Take those deep cleansing breaths, gently close those eyes. You know, think about the situation you find yourself in, where you find yourself, and the answer's there. And I encourage people to do that, and I encourage them to put their question in front of them, and I encourage them to gently then listen. And then I asked everybody within that audience to then raise their hand if they had an answer. And about 146 people put their hands up. They all had the answer. And I said to them, wave your hand if you're very sure on your answer. And about 130 people waved their arms. They were very sure on that answer. And I remember saying, you know, I'd like to see moving forward the world without the need of mediums, because actually we all have that ability to connect, to be able to go in and know those truths. It's just that the world moves at so much speed, and that's a big part of where we find ourselves. You know, it's all been movement, it's all been achievement, striving, but for what? You know, and I think that's the thing, is that, you know, when Roger says the world is having a nervous breakdown, there's something that's happening alongside that there are millions of people waking up, finally waking up. And I think that's an absolute truth. The many people I'm privileged to work with are waking up in the morning and saying, I can't do this. I can't move at this speed. I can't continue to carry on as I am. It's not actually making me happy. It's actually creating a huge amount of pain. And I know that when I was led to some of the truths that are there within this video, the links, you know, it was very mixed feeling and emotion that I still believe that I'm still processing to this day. But I knew there were deep truths in it, and I think that we can't just continue to carry on as if it's not happening, or it doesn't affect us, or it's not going to, or it's not my problem, because somewhere down the line, I believe it is going to affect us. You know, when you watch those videos, you'll hear, Roger talk about some very practical things. What is the very thing that holds all of this together is the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and the food that we eat. And even here in the UK, we've had over the last few years, monumental crop failure in a huge scale. But it's okay because we can fly it in from somewhere else. But what if somewhere else has that monumental crop failure too? What if that starts to become the pattern going forwards? And we all play a part in the way we are living. And I think that alarm bell has gone off. But it's what we do with all of this as we go forwards. It's not easy. And what's led me to this is getting my fingers in the soil, which, I come from a heritage of, on my dad's side, and even on my mum's side. I can remember my mum's dad saying about planting potatoes on St. Patrick's Day, because the soil is warm enough on St. Patrick's Day. So, I can remember him mentioning that, and a memory surfacing. But my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father have all grown their own food. It's there within the blood, and that is what's led me to these other truths. And all of you know how passionate I am about the great outdoors and about adventuring, and I think we all are. We all will gaze out the window. We all will go wow to a sunrise or to a waterfall or to the mountain. But we can't live in our bubbles and our bliss. And one of the videos I'm going to suggest you to watch is where Roger talks about, he was like, do you know what? I'm just going to escape humanity. I'm just going to run it into West Wales. I'm going to live on my farm, and I'm just going to get away from human beings. Only for that real truth to knock him over the head, and cause him to stand up in the way that he is, in the most incredible way. And he's very straight talking, and he's very direct and very honest. So I think, we live in real times of huge change. And the last time I undertook a change at this level was when I stood up in front of that audience, because I then realised that we all have the ability to tap into that truth. And I can remember some of the mediums horrified that I said that you can find that truth yourself. You don't need to sit in front of although of course it can be validated, we can go deeper. For me, that's exactly what it's about. Holistic mediumship was born out of that moment. It was about not just giving people information, it was about moving people forwards. It was really about nurturing the evolution and the transformation of that individual. And that's what we're talking about right now. Is Spirit want to, and they are steering the conversation into consciousness change, evolution and transformation. So we've talked about a lot. I'm going to absolutely leave it there for you guys to just kind of digest this. Do share your thoughts and feelings with me. You know, last thing I'm going to leave you with is, what drives the innate into contact is a future that is different to our past. And something I found as a beautiful quote, and I will find who gave it: when things break down, it's because something new is breaking through. And as I say, the innate are really, truly changing the subject. It's about consciousness. It's about evolution and transformation and change. And for that to really take hold, I really encourage you to watch the videos within the links. They are thought-provoking. They can range to stir up a lot as well. But I do truly believe that over this last summer I've been really nudged and guided to share them. And I think, as I said earlier, there's two ways for us to kind of engage that. We either engage it and we're kind of quite shocked for a while, and it brings up quite a lot, or we just carry on as we are. We sidestep it. It'll be resolved, or it's not my problem. And I mean that respectfully and lovingly. I think that's a natural reaction to a lot of what's going on in the world. And also, we just don't know how to. We don't know how to remedy it, or how to fix it, or transform it, or heal it. And we just kind of entrenched in the way that we have lived. But it's about kind of just stopping, pausing. Pause is very important in these times. I'm going to leave that with you. I'm going to leave the love of the innate with you. And I'll be seeing you very, very soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.